Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're at Daytona and racing a multi-class race of all things. We've got the Lara prototype running alongside a whole bunch of GT3 cars. So I've taken the liberty of skipping the outlap for you, and we now have drivers coming in on all coming in on their different times. So currently, I think the timing screens still just need to catch up a bit. But we've got Cornet out in. Just checking the model names again. The Lara P217. So that's going to be the fastest car around here. And then we're also racing with the BMW M4 GT3, Ferrari 488 GT3, the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, and then the Mercedes AMG GT3. So it's going to be interesting seeing that it's the first time that I'm watching a race where the Lambo is not one of the fastest cars. And it's also a rather interesting track. Not too many braking zones, not so much that you can do on the track. And as we're talking, Cornet Bread comes in for a nice quick 134.1. I do not have the practice times with me, so I'm not going to be able to give the most relevant data, but it does seem quite fast in comparison to the rest of the pack. Renier van Schalkwyk, the first GT3, the BMW, coming in with time, and then Jaco Foster coming in with his time for overall fourth position. And we've got the whole pack jumping in now. So, jumping around a bit. Let's show you something other than these prototypes. So, this is Gordon Hales with his Lamborghini. And wow, that's that's sounding particularly violent. Engine just backfire or popping all the way. So the driver field that we've got tonight is our usual suspects. Gordon Breed, Jaco Steyn, Raymond Duggan, Jaco Foster, Gordon Hales, Jas Mai, Gijsbert Attinagel, Renier van Schalkwyk, Jan Spammers, Maurits Pretorius, Louis Visser, Renier Engelbrecht, Zak Foster, Mornay Deploy, and Pieter van Zyl. Speaking of it, Zak Foster still having to put in a lap. Running in the GT3 car. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to put in. And I'm always so lost with these qualifying times because they're at the mercy of timing screens. But Zak Foster coming in with 149, but I think 148, sorry. So that's going to put him in 11th position. He probably can do a bit better. So I think he's still just getting a feel for the track, as this might not be his usual car. While we're talking about that, Mornay Deploy also playing around a bit, trying to get a nice feel for the track. Prior to this, he told me he has been practicing a bit, but he's still not completely comfortable. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes around this track. He's got a nice car behind him, the Mercedes AMG. It's one of the more comfortable cars to drive, I think. A bit on the heavier side, but that's still fairly controllable around a circuit like this. Up at the front, only prototype on track at the moment is Raymond Duggan, running in a beautiful livery. I can't remember exactly who did these iRacing South Africa liveries, but that has been a while back. I'm running a similar one on my F3 car. You can find them on Trading Paints. And a lot of slow cars on the track at the moment. Only 2.5 minutes of practice left, of qualifying left, not practice. Zach Foster jumping all the way to the front of his class, so he's definitely going to be very happy with that. I apologize, Mornay, we're getting back to you. Mornay making sure he gets a bit of a better feel for the car. As you can see, he's kind of testing the curbs there, trying to see what he can get away with and what he needs to be careful for. And it's always interesting seeing a track like this with the cars on the bank corners. I know if you run a full race on these bank corners, it can cause havoc on your tires a bit. And I'm wondering whether the drivers are actually accounting for that in their setups, running these corners at high speeds. Also, I have to unfortunately apologize. I lost my fellow commentator. He's out due to ESCOM load shedding. So he's basically had a bit of a backlog build up due to the power outages. So looking at the pack, no one's on track. No one's going to get another lap in. For the prototype class is Corné Breed, Jaco Steyn, Raymond Duggan and Renier Engelbrecht. Some very brave souls. And then the rest of the pack, Zach Foster leading the GT3 class in pole. Then Jaco Foster, Gordon Hales, Jan Spammers, Jesse Mai, Gijsbert Atinagel, Renier van Skalkwyk, Louis Visser, Marius Pretorius, Mornay de Plooy, and then Pieter van Zyl rounding out the pack at the end. Of course, these last two that I read still needing to actually put in a valid lap. But that should be the starting grid, unless Mornay has a valid lap going here and it jumps over. So we'll also, as is customary, do our rolling start. And we've got the drivers gridding up. I can just get to them. You can see the base car leading everyone. So starting at the back of the track, and it's going to be interesting to see. It's been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how the circuits work with these rolling starts. But on the shorter tracks, it might be a full lap. Sometimes it's a smaller portion of the track. So we'll see when the pace car pulls in. Looking at the field of cars, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but Pieter van Zyl, the only gentleman running in Porsche, and then there's Jesse Mai, who's the only driver in a Ferrari. As the pace car pulls away, everyone starts heading out onto the track. I also always find this the most stressful, because it's you're trying to keep that distance, but also trying not to get out of touch with the car in front of you. So you can there just see everyone getting close to one another. I apologize, I just quickly need to turn something down on my side. There we go, that's a lot better. Okay. So, pace car seems to still be out. No, we're ready to go racing. So, Coordinate Bread taking a very comfortable start, leading the prototypes. And down the back with the GT3s. Also looking fairly clean through all of these corners. So a very nice start for everyone. No drivers really dropping back too badly. We've got a nice grouping of drivers here, so some possible interesting racing. Jan Spammer's already getting very close to the Lamborghini of Gordon Hales. And oh, on the inside we've got René van Schalkwyk looking for our opportunity, not going to get it. But that has to put some worry in the back of the head of Jan Spammer. And we unfortunately have Jaco Foster. We'll quickly look at what happened to him. And that's just a bit too much throttle through that corner. That's going to put him on the drive back. Up front in the back, Jaco Steyn under pressure from Raymond Duggan. Fairly quiet up in front. You can already see how big of a gap these prototypes pull on the GT3s, and that's all of that downforce just giving you the confidence to go through corners. And oh, getting so close. Raymond Duggan doing well to avoid contact there. You can see him just backing off slightly, really careful for and trying to just lay back a bit, see how Jaco's driving, and trying to see where the opportunities for attack is. Now they need to be a bit more careful about it. Louis Visser starting to join up the party here with René van Schalkwyk, Atti Nagel. And unfortunately some connectivity issues, so we're just going to jump to Atti, just so that we don't get jumped around. But these cars are running very close to one another. We do have René Engelbrecht, who had a bit of a crash, who's dropped back. But yeah, that is unfortunately a big gap backwards. We'll quickly just check what happened to him. So see, entering the first few corners, and that's on the grass, and yeah, you can just see how close this limit is. So just that little bit of loss of grip on the outside just makes him run wide. Once you're on the other side of the track, there's no going back. Atti Nagel trying to see if he can run high. René van Schalkwyk seeing if he can follow him, but you can see as soon as you tuck out of that toe, with just a sitting duck, and that's going to unfortunately have... Now I just need to check the car numbers here. Where is that setting? I apologize, but whoever in the BMW just fell back completely there. Must have been Renier van Schalkwyk dropping back. Jakob Foster on the overtake for Gordon Hales. Let's quickly see what happened there. And that's a disconnection. Not sure exactly what's going on there, but Ati with an entire train of cars behind him. Lucas are kind of a bit of a in the middle of a sandwich here. They're spreading out down the back of the track. So it's also something that's going to be quite tricky through the rest of this race, is managing how close you stay to the car in front of you, because ideally you only have the braking zones to really make any move for overtaking. And while that chicane does provide a bit of an opportunity, immediately you need to fall in behind the car in front of you, because if you don't, again, you're going to find yourself struggling for pace. You can see here, Lucas are just eating up the gap there. And again, the connection struggling a bit. Atinachel running on the inside, and we'll see if they leave space. Unfortunately, that's going to leave the other driver on the outside. Jan Spammer's dropping back. Raymond Duggan and Jan Spammer's having a bit of a long route off track. When they deploy, doing very well for the lack of confidence that he showed at the start. But that flashing car in front of him is going to be something that's going to throw him off his game. And as I say that, a bunch of drivers dipping the wheels off track. Thankfully it's on the straight. But yeah, 4 cars in tow down the back straight. And again, if you do not have the tow here, you're going to be in huge amounts of trouble. So you want to stay as close as you can to that car on the exit. Going up ahead, Corné Breed just having a race by himself, 5 seconds lead over Jaco Steyn. Don't know if this is what Corné drives in his day-to-day iRacing, but he does seem very comfortable in the car. Then further back, Jaco Steyn lapping almost a second slower than Corné Breed, or on the last lap, so that will explain the gap. Just going to jump back to Louis Visser here. The GT3 is proving that they do provide some close racing. When they deploy, just hanging on to the back end of that battle, just trying to find an opportunity for someone making a mistake. And we'll see if he gets rewarded for his patience. But the man to beat up in front, Ati Nagel in the Lambo, just leading this bunch of cars. That's some nice, clean, consistent driving from them. To just give a bit of an idea of the speed difference between these cars, the prototypes are topping out at around 330 kilometers an hour. The fastest GT3 that I can see is the one of Jan Spammer and Renier van Schalkwyk, both running at 286 kilometers an hour. So that is a bit of a difference in pace. Also just remembering, Motor Racer on the YouTube channel saying hi. Thanks for watching, Motor Racer. and welcome to the stream. So far, not too many overtakes that I caught in my eyes, as we say that René van Schalkwyk actually overtakes Atinagel and has to fall back a bit, so they're kind of running side by side. And René taking the inside line, he's going to have that, and that's made Ati run completely wide. He's now under pressure from Louis Visser. We're going to see what's going to happen here. Oh, and unfortunate contact there. I'm just going to jump away from that. That's a bit violent. So one car trying to turn in, and unfortunately just finding the side of his opponent. And as I say that, Mornay Deploy jumping up to third in his class. So as I said, that patience has been rewarded, and he's come out in front. And now he's got a nice battle here going between him and René van Schalkwyk. Going up the inside for the chicane. And decides to tuck back in. He's not going to make that braking zone, and rather just utilize that chicane, exit nicely, and just stay in the toe of René van Schalkwyk. And he might have missed that opportunity, but as you see, René van Schalkwyk just shooting out from under him. Yeah, Samai having a bit of a battle here with Peter van Zyl. Peter running very high on the banking. I'm not sure exactly sure what's going on there. And we now also have the prototypes starting to... Oh. And Jakkestein taking some evasive action there for the car of Peter van Zyl. And that's the difficulty with these faster prototype cars. As they start overtaking the server cars, it's really difficult to find a good spot for that. Because unfortunately, he runs off track there. So you can see here Corné Breed kind of steam behind Mornay-Steyn. Mornay-Steyn making sure he brakes a bit early as Corné just shoot past. But that's always a very awkward situation. Peter van Zyl and Jan Spammers now running. Oh, Peter van Zyl having a horrible day in that Porsche. We can see Jan now gunning for Yasma. The two red cars, the Ferrari and the Lambo. And he's really caught him up, but they do have the... I think that is Raymond... Is that Corné Breed or Raymond Duggan? No, that was Raymond Duggan that they had to watch out for here. And yeah, it's coming under pressure now. He's going to have to choose. Is he going to run defensive on the inside? Yes, he's choosing the defensive line. Unfortunately, to him, that's going to mean Jan Spammers is going to have the momentum up the outside. And now he's going to, if he can stick next to him, he's going to have the inside line at some point. And you can see Yaz doesn't want to play around with that. Rather let Jan Spammers past. Not really contesting that too much. Someone who's had a bit of a rough time as well. It's Jakkestein who's in the pits. Apologies. René Engelbert also having a bit of a race by himself. As I said, that we've got the two red cars of Jan Spammers and Yasmai coming into view for him. And it's also difficult having these faster cars come up behind you. So René Engelbrecht running up on the banking, you can just see how he cruises past these cars. Speed differential is really quite mind-blowing. And yes, Maya and Jan Spammers putting the differences aside just so that they can kind of safely get through the next few corners, get the prototype ahead of them, and they can start focusing on one another again. So not much of a battle between the prototypes. They've settled into their rhythm, if I can put it like that. Corne Brid running with a very comfortable 16-17 second lead. We also have Jaco Steyn, who's back on track. So he's repaired the damage that he had. It did look like damage. It's been too short for him to be pitting for tyres. Unfortunately, Peter van Zyl now finding himself in a really uncomfortable situation. And this is now tricky because you can see Jaco Steyn kind of trying to find the gaps. And unfortunately, he found Peter van Zyl on the apex a few times, but he's away and off again. Zak Foster is still running way ahead of the GT3 pack. So really comfortable in this Lamborghini of his. His lap times are also at least 5/10 faster than the rest of the pack. So, and if we go on pace for the last lap, it's a full second. So he's really stretching that gap behind him. But the back, someone that we haven't really looked at too much, Marius Pretorius, and I don't know how we missed him with that livery. Luminescent purple. It actually looks really nice, that two-tone color. And he's now catching up to the backside of Peter van Zyl. And it's going to be interesting to see whether he can force a mistake here. Also see some of the GT3 pack are also starting to lap some of these cars. So you can see the AMG of Monet Deploy just thundering around in the background there. So this is now starting to get really tricky to keep track of in your mind's eye. Atinagel is also finding him within striking distance of the prototypes. There he goes, another one past him. The interesting thing is the next car behind him is not a prototype, but is actually the car of Zak Foster. And that is really close to the prototypes. Only 4.5 seconds, okay, 5 seconds. He might have gotten some time somewhere. Looking around, Jaco Foster, another one of the AMG drivers, black and red, also a very nice color scheme. He seems to be on a bit of a drive back. Not sure, I can't see. He has been to the pits. Interesting. So he might have also pitted for some damage, or yeah, I do not have the tire information here. He's running on soft, so it's not like he pitted for a different set of tires and it's going long. It's quite perplexing. Then looking at some of the things that have happened, and seems to be having a slight bit of trouble with his Lambo. And again, it's that sweeping corner, and wow, that's close to the other cars. But that's just how easy it is to step out the back end of these cars through the faster turns. You don't really have that challenge with the prototypes, but with the GT3 cars, it can be easy to just get that back end to step out, and not giving you the opportunity to really get your foot down. And as we swap over to Renier van Schalkwyk, he's heading into the pits. So I do remember now that we do have a mandatory pit stop, but for a race duration of an hour, that's maybe a bit early. Might be some severe undercuts happening here. Because his car didn't really look like it had damage. So yeah, that might be some of the drivers going for the undercut. But I don't think it's that difficult to pass here, so I'm not exactly sure what advantages that would give you. I can understand with a track like Monaco, the undercut being very useful. Even an overcut if you've got the free space ahead of you, or the clean air in front of you. But here it's not that much of an issue. It's a wide open track. And you kind of want to stay close to cars to be able to catch up with some of the cars further ahead. That's why the NASCAR drivers kind of form these little groups that they work around or work along with each other, and then if you try and break away from that, you're at a much bigger disadvantage, and you start burning through your fuel and tires. Oh, and Foster almost losing it, doing very well to catch that car. It's also a very difficult thing to do, catching it in the moment like that. Another player doing really well for himself, sitting in 7th and just staying behind the AMG of Foster. And yet the buddy system can really help, especially if you're not that confident of your pace, and you can kind of get a few free tenths of a second down the bank corners thanks to your opponent. Renier Engelbert also heading into the pits now, so a few of them going for some form of undercut. Just want to check how long is he going to sit in there, because the car looks fine. And it does seem to be a bit longer. We'll keep an eye on when he exits the pits. So he's been in the pits for about 40-50 seconds. He's on his way out now. That's not long enough for damage, so yes. Some people going for the cheeky undercut here. And he's still going to come out ahead of Jaco Steyn. It's also interesting here to see Peter van Sale actually doing a very good job of keeping with Mornay Deploy here, even though he's a lap down. So again, it might be that he's finding it easier to just follow the other cars and kind of see where the apexes are, where they're braking, and then just use that as an example of something that he can do, and also maybe catching a bit of a draft through the corners or the bank corners. It's always interesting to see when the back markers keep up with some of the cars. And that's two cars running very close. I apologize that I couldn't really swap over sooner. Yeah, the Foster getting very close to one of the prototypes. Raymond Duggan now coming out of the pits, and Zach Foster as well. So Zach going into the pits now. Jakob Foster is going in. Mornay Deploy is going in. So everyone pulling the trigger now. Cornay Breed has already pitted. So he's possibly in the home stretch. He might come around for a bit of a splash and dash at the end. Yes, Mai. One of two cars who haven't pitted yet. And now sits with a huge pocket of clean air in front of him. 45 seconds up to the next car. So Samai running first in the GT3 class. Whether he can utilize that is going to be a different question. And Neil van Schalkwijk making the move on Jakob Foster, and oh, that's just as he came out of the pits. Apologies. It's not always easy knowing as you look at these, all of the numbers on the screen. Excuse me. Neil van Schalkwijk is putting a bit of pressure on Mornay Deploy, the BMW and the Merc, and two very different sounding engines. Merc almost sounding like a diesel. But yeah, not too much to mention at the moment. Jumping to someone else we haven't really seen in a while. I don't think we have looked at Raymond Duggan for a bit. I think Cornay Breed is the one we're leaving alone for now. But actually, let's jump on board with Cornay Breed and have a bit of a look. Apologies, this is going to be very loud. So going into that twisty section of the track, you can just see how confident he can be on the throttle. Just lifting slightly, and again, very early on throttle. That's going to be a stark contrast with the GT3 cars. And yeah, no lifts, get a bit of a downshift, and here's the dangerous bit, getting on the throttle. Now another crucial corner. We've seen two cars spin out here already. And you can see how early you can get on that throttle, just get the ideal exit. And the hypnotizing rhythm of the lights. I start to understand why some of the drivers out there actually fall asleep while driving in the sim, not in real life. Through the bus stop chicane. nice and quick, almost like a straight line. And just see him motoring down the track. So very, very fast lap. And that was a 134.6. So 7/10 slower than his best. But still very quick. And we'll now jump on board with Mornay Deploy, who's now coming across the line. Jumping into the cockpit with him. And you can see how much more careful he needs to be on the throttle. And you can see a lot of counter steering happening. I can imagine the back end of this car being very lively. That looking nice and smooth. And here you need to be careful not to step that wheel out on the dirt. And you can see how much he's lifting there. So that downforce makes a huge amount of difference. Down the back straight and down the first bank corner, and you can just see how much slower this feels compared to the prototype. And just as I say that, we actually have a Raymond Duggan passing him through the bus stop chicane. The car looks a lot less stable through here, very unsettled. I can imagine Mornay sweating bullets inside his sim. So we'll leave him alone for now. So Jakob Foster running a bit closer to Renier van Schalkwyk. Going for the move on the inside, you can see him flashing, just making sure that Renier knows he's there. Easily takes the position. I think Renier might have let him through there. Just to have the faster driver in front. In the foreground, we've got Mornay Deploy. He's also going to start to come within striking distance at some point. Renier doing well to stay within the slipstream of Jakob Forster. So we'll see. Ooh, when he just steps onto the grass, both drivers stepping onto the grass, that's going to cost them time. And they need to be careful here not to overdo it on the throttle. Schalkwyk running a bit more of a tight line than you'd want to, and you can see him losing out on the speed on the straight there, although as I say that, he's catching the draft and catching up. Gornahell's also in a bit of a battle with Pieter van Zyl. Running very high up on the curb there. They need to be careful not to spin out their cars on the gravel, also on the grass. Need to jump back to Renier van Schalkwyk and Jakob Forster. I'm still trying to make up my mind whether Renier, and he's actually going for the move all the way around the outside with momentum. But he decides not to turn in. He's a bit scared of the fact that Jakob Forster might be there. It's not completely committing to it, but it did have a lot of momentum there. And one could imagine that he could have made that overtake. Still, I do enjoy the fact that these drivers are trying to look out for themselves, having some self-preservation in mind, and rather looking for different opportunities that they can utilize. So René van Schalkwyk still knows he's got half of the race left in front of him, so still a lot that can happen. We also have Gordon van Hels making the pass on Peter van Zyl. This was down... no, apologies. You can just see Peter rather just tucking in behind Gordon Hels. Further up ahead, Gordon Britt is having a monster of a race. 30 seconds until the next car, and this is in class, this is not the GT3s. So that is one massive gap. The gap to the first GT3 car is actually 1 minute 58 seconds. So a full lap ahead of all of the GT3 cars. No, apologies, that's Jakob Stein. So he's actually started lapping the prototype cars as well. So he's having one hell of a race and running a very fast pace. He has dropped back to a 1:36.15 on his previous lap. But that might just be because he's running into some of the GT3 cars. Looking at other portions of the track. René van Schalkwyk now dropping back a bit from Jaco Forster. And I think I might still accidentally have the radio messages on. So apologies if that came through. Yeah, René van Schalkwyk now kind of just having his own little race here. Just relaxing and trying to keep consistent. Corne Britt coming past the car of Jan Spanner. And it's interesting to see the gap that's opened between Jan Spammer and Yasse Mai. It's a fairly large one. 8 seconds in total. I can believe that he's just trying to be consistent, just trying to keep his pace within a manageable level. And not really putting himself in situations where he does not want to be. Jakob Forster. Oh, sorry, Zach Forster. Yeah, Jakob Forster. This is the driver that I wanted to swap to. Starting to catch up with Mornay Deploy a bit. You can see the time just ticking down. So we'll see whether we'll get a battle between the two of them. Mornay doing very well to put himself in second position in class. And he's just running a nice solid race. Doing his best lap right about now. So he's definitely found the pace. He is on his own a bit. And he has pitted, so he's there on his own merit. The only car who hasn't pitted yet is the car of Louis Visser. Or doesn't register a pit count on my timing sheet. So yeah, he might just still be trying to find the tempo. Now, unfortunately, Remy Duggan has had a bit of a situation. All out on his own. And oh, that's just overcooking it a bit. Entering the corner too quickly. Still struggling to find the limits of that car. And a spin like that is very, very difficult to deal with, because you then kind of need to build up your confidence again. And start building up towards the limit all from the start. You can see he's running wide, so he's a bit frustrated with the car. And he still needs to build up the confidence again. It also doesn't help that Corneille Briet is just running at a pace that no one can match. So, but they're still doing really well. And it's a monster of a car to get around here. And the downforce does help you a lot, but you still need to be very careful with your exits, and you can't just send it through every corner at whatever speed you please. You still need to be careful with how much grip you're using in all of your tires, because the amount of lateral grip that you're using versus longitudinal grip can change very rapidly. Gornahell's catching up with Peter van Zyl again. Why does it feel like these guys have been swapping positions every now and then? And it seems to be that Gordon had a bit of an off track earlier. So Gordon's mistake costing him a position, and now he's fighting back for that position. And Peter van Zyl not making it easy. Making sure that Porsche is as wide as he can make it. And Hale is taking some rather unorthodox lines through that corner. Tightening it for himself as he's trying to avoid Van Zyl on the slower parts of the corner. So you can see Van Zyl has a lower apex speed than Hale's, and this is throwing Hale's off a bit because he does have to avoid making contact, and that's where it's crucial to kind of fall back enough that you can build up momentum through the apex, but also that you can then catch up with the car again when you're in the next straight or in the next bank corner. Apologies. So now I have Corneille Briet, who has pitted for his second pit stop. So it seems that these bank corners are really eating up the tires. And on my logs, he's running another pair of softs. So it might just be that the time that you gain with those tires is just that more useful than running a longer stint on the hards and being slower. The rest of the pack is fairly well spread out. Someone we haven't really had our eye on that much is Ati Nagel. and he's running a few seconds behind Yaz Samai, who's also fallen a bit more behind Jan Spammers. And they've got one of the prototype cars coming up behind. I can't really see who it is. And that looks like Raymond Duggan, I think. No, that is Corne Breed coming past. No, yeah, it's Corne Breed coming that came past. And yeah, everyone's settling into the groove a bit, so no one's really within striking distance for positions. Now we've got Duggan leading the prototype class, and Foster running the running in the front of the GT3 cars. When I deploy, still in second in class, and he sprung a bigger gap between himself and Foster, so he's definitely going to be very happy with that. Gordon Hale's also finally making the move on Peter Francel and reclaiming that position that he lost with this off track. But now he just needs to keep it consistent. And Renew van Engelbrecht, as we see him heading into the pits and getting overtaken by Corne Breed. So that's going to be his second pit. Corne Breed already has his second pit sorted out. Raymond Duggan still has to come in for a second pit, so I can imagine on his tires it's starting to get a bit late in the race if he wants to go for the second pit. Also seeing a wide range of times for what people are spending in the pits. Most of them getting away with sub 40 seconds lost in the pits. But there are a few of them that actually went above 40, and then some, of course, doing repairs. So Raymond Duggan still leading the race and the prototype class. Going past Mornay Deploy there. Zach Foster is also finding himself in a bit of no man's land, with only the prototypes really keeping him company. He's also run away with the GT3 race here. Cool, 24.8 seconds ahead of Mornay Deploy. So he's in a very comfortable position here, making it look easy in that Lambo. Seem to have lost him on the connection. That probably scared. I think that might have been no. Yeah, that was Jaco Steyn that he gave a big fright. So Jaco Steyn has also been having a bit of a quiet race. I think this car might just not be something that he runs on a regular basis. And that's also been the tricky part of this New Beginnings League, is you're running a new car in every single race, and you don't really have the time to adapt to the car as much you would like. But that's also something that a lot of these drivers deal with as they take part in the iRacing matchmaking. Because I see a few guys running different cars during the week. And that's something I only think you can really do once you've got the fundamentals nailed down to a T. I showed Peter van Zyl a bit again. His livery really reminds me of the Apex Racing Academy liveries that they've got, the dark green, black and white. This light green one is actually a bit easy on the eyes. And these Porsches can be tricky to control. I think I recall people saying it's a rather tricky car to drive. The easiest car to drive on this field, I'm going to guess it's going to be between the AMG and possibly the Ferrari. That's of course discounting the prototype's downforce that it's got, but it does have a lot of power behind that, so that also makes it a bit more tricky. And the other thing is also dealing with the traffic. I mean, you're lapping cars a lot more than you would normally do in a race, and that unpredictability is something that can very easily ruin your race if you catch someone as it's trying to pull off the line for you. René Engelbrecht, also someone that we haven't really featured as much. Coming past, again, also in a race by himself. And at this point it's just about settling into a rhythm. And with 10 minutes left, I can't really see how there would be too much antics coming towards the end of the race. I mean, at this point you do need to think about rather preserving your position than gaining another, unless you know you do have the pace on the other driver. But for someone like René Engelbrecht, unfortunately, that's going to possibly put him in a position where this man, Jaco Steyn, can overtake him. He's still kind of getting going on the track, and this might be a problem for him. So Jaco Steyn coming up with a huge amount of pace, and that's going to put him right underneath the back spoiler of Engelbrecht. And he's all kinds of out of shape there, running through the cones, running deep into the corner. Jaco Steyn running through the outside, and he's going to have that position for himself. But runs a bit wide on the exits and has a huge amount of momentum on Engelbrecht, and finally makes the moves tick. So yeah, as I was talking about self-preservation, that's the thing. You're going to be your worst enemy in this last section. You also have Raymond Duggan in the pits. So depending on how long he's going to be there, Jaco might still catch up with him. You can see Raymond Duggan now coming out of the pits, and that's going to be a comfortable amount of time between him and Jaco Steyn, especially since Jaco is now into the pits himself. So I never noticed that Steyn hasn't pitted yet, but done his second pit yet. Ooh, and we've unfortunately had a bit of a coming together between cars. And this is René Engelbrecht kind of getting out of shape on the barriers, getting too close to the GT3 in the braking zone, hitting him from behind. Oh, he must be kicking himself at the moment with that. And one has to feel sorry for Yasuma as well. And he's the innocent bystander in that whole situation. It does seem like the concentration for some of the drivers is starting to become a problem. It's been almost 50, it's been 55 minutes of racing, excluding practice, excluding qualifying, so they must really be tired at the moment. It's not completely an endurance race at the moment, but it is at the point where you do really need to pay attention to your concentration, and you do need to give yourself some laps where you can just lighten up the load a bit, get yourself some mental space, and then put the foot down again for the next round. And Foster running a very comfortable race. I do just want to quickly jump up ahead. Here, Engelbrecht again getting into a bit of a... So is he going into the pits there? Yeah, so that is Renee's... That's going to be his third pit stop. So, Jakustein, you can see Gordon Brett off in the distance in front of him. But Corneille actually running a lap ahead of Jakustein here. So, that just shows how much space Brett has had in hand. I mean, it's not like Stein has driven poorly. He's done some really consistent laps around the circuit. I think just Brett might be on a whole different level, and this might be what he's driving day in, day out. I think I've also seen him drive F3 cars in different sims, so he might just be really at home with the downforce on the car. Versus someone like Stein who's probably racing a lot more GT cars. Even though Yaz has had his coming together with the prototype car, it does seem like he hasn't really lost position. I see Spammers still in front of him, although with a bit more of a lead on him. I do think Yaz can still hold onto his position here. Well, no deploy also, fingers crossed, looks set for his position. I just want to have a bit of a look and see how comfortable he's become with the car, because with 2 minutes to go, hopefully he's kind of settled into a bit of a groove. He does have a nice gap behind him, so he doesn't really have to be too mindful of his lap times at the moment. I think at this point self-preservation is just going to be key, because he's in a very good position. So I can only think that he really wants to hold on to this. Ooh, and a bit of oversteer there. So giving himself a bit of a scare. And you do have... Which car is that behind him? That's Raymond Duggan coming up behind him. So I can imagine that's putting a lot of pressure on him. But thankfully he's got the band corner coming up ahead. He just needs to keep this exit clean. quickly want to check my... That's no one new saying hi in the comments. But yeah, Monet looking very solid. And we've got the hour mark coming up. 30 seconds left. I do think this is going to show that they're going to show the checkered flag to deploy. Further up ahead, Zach Foster is still going to get another extra lap. So we'll quickly see deploy getting across the line, and that's going to be another lap that he needs to complete. So Cornet Bridge just running away with the entire race. And that's just some good, clean driving. And probably the only mistake that we've seen from him so far. Yeah, Costain also coming across the line. Raymond Duggan off for another lap, just barely. And then Zach Foster through the bus stop chicane, so on his last portion of the lap. Also a well-deserved victory for him. First in class. I think he can be very happy with that one there. Another gentleman that can be really happy, Monday Deploy. Well done. Showing that the heavier AMG can really do well with its power around here. Jacob Foster, another AMG, third in class. Renier van Schalkwijk, not really getting to Foster, but I do think he will still be very happy with that fourth position. Jan Spammer is keeping ahead of Yasamai. And then Yasamai maintaining his position. And doing really well to recover from that shunt that he had earlier. So yeah, it's been some interesting racing. And it's also been some interesting results. So in the prototype class, we've got Briet, Dagan, Stein, and Engelbrecht. And then in the GT3 class, it's Foster, Deploy, Foster again, Van Schalkwijk, Spammer, Samai, Hales, Nagel, Van Zyl, Pretorius, and then Louis Visser also finishing the race in the Porsche. I think, no, he must have dropped out at some point, I think. Both him and Pretorius. But yeah, some rather interesting racing. It's been a lovely evening. I just need to check a few things and then I'll just be back with you. So yeah, I just quickly had to bring up the information for next week's race. So we'll be running a multi-class race, and it's a team multi-class event, so that's going to be really interesting. We've got 2 sessions for you. The first session is going to have the teams, driver A in a GTE car and driver B sitting in their GT4 car, and then the drivers swap for the second session. So both drivers kind of having to adapt to both cars. Like, I think that can be really, really tricky. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they pick a car that's suited for both drivers, or whether each driver picks the strongest car for the 2 respective cars, and then does the best that they can in the race, and then just kind of try and keep it together in the other race. So that's going to be some interesting stuff to see. But yeah, from my side, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for if you're re-watching the stream. It's quite a long session, so thank you for bearing with me, and we'll see you next week if ESCOM doesn't load shed us for the team multi-class event. Thank you very much, and hope that you have a good night.